The human mind is a labyrinth, winding, deceptive, and perilous. For some, its corridors harbor secrets so dark they defy comprehension. Tonight we delve into the abyss, into the minds of those who crossed the threshold between man and monster. Ted Bundy, charming, intelligent, calculated, a man who wore a mask of normalcy so well, he became the ultimate predator. His hunting ground was vast, stretching across states, his methods meticulously planned. But behind the facade of charisma lay a void, a craving for control, for domination, for death. Bundy's allure was his greatest weapon. He preyed on empathy, using feigned vulnerability to lure his victims into the trap. He posed as a figure of authority, offering safety but delivering terror. Carol Durant nearly became one of his many victims. Posing as a police officer, he lured Carol to his VW bug in a Utah shopping mall parking lot. He attempted to abduct her by swinging a crowbar at her head and physically forcing her into his car. His plan was foiled by her courage and quick thinking that allowed her to escape the predator's grasp. 9 months later, Bundy was arrested, fleeing police. The discovery of handcuffs in his car linked him to Durant's harrowing encounter. Convicted of aggravated kidnapping, he was sentenced to prison, but his reign of terror was far from over. Bundy escaped twice from custody, eventually making his way to Tallahassee, Florida. There, his violence escalated to unimaginable levels. In the early hours of the 15th of January 1978, Bundy entered the Chi Omega sorority house, brutally attacking 4 young women. Margaret Bowman and Lisa Levy were killed. Kathy Kleiner and Karen Chandler barely survived his assault. Bundy bludgeoned his victims with a firewood log fashioned into a club, leaving a trail of devastation. Bite marks on Lisa Levy's body would later become a critical piece of evidence. Dental experts identified the bite marks as Bundy's, sealing his fate. He was convicted of murder and sentenced to death. But Bundy's atrocities didn't end there. On the 9th of February 1978, 12-year-old Kimberly Leach disappeared from her school. Her body was found 2 months later in an abandoned woodshack. Bundy was once again linked by witnesses and evidence. The court sentenced Bundy to death for his heinous crimes. Unlike his earlier escapes, this time there would be no way out. In stark contrast, Israel Keyes was a specter, a ghost in the night, leaving no trace, no pattern, no mercy. If Bundy was the charming predator, Keyes was the calculating phantom. He planned years in advance, burying caches of death across the country, his insurance against the unpredictability of chance. His victims were chosen at random, their only mistake being in the wrong place at the wrong time. It was June 2011, in the quiet town of Essex, Vermont. A couple's peaceful evening was shattered by an intruder with menacing, pure evil intent. Israel Keyes broke into the couple's home after choosing them at random for no other purpose than his entertainment. He tied the 50-year-old couple up after doing what Keyes called a blitz attack, loaded them in their own car and set off into the rainy night. The couple, thinking they'd been victims of a robbery, could not have imagined what fresh hell Keyes had in mind for them. He took them to a pre-selected abandoned farmhouse on a lonely back road, far from prying eyes and possible interruptions. Keyes left the husband tied up on the lower floor while he took the wife upstairs to the bedroom. Then he raped the woman several times, running downstairs in between to assault and slaughter the husband. To complete his night's activities, Keyes dragged the wife downstairs and set her in a chair to witness his handiwork he'd performed on her husband. As she was viewing the scene of carnage, blood streaking the walls and her husband sprawled lifeless on the floor, Keyes came up behind her and strangled the life out of her. Keyes' depravity knew no bounds. His victims became his puppets, their fates sealed by his sadistic choreography. After Israel Keyes was arrested for the murder of 18-year-old Samantha Koenig in Alaska in 2012, authorities realized that the man they had in custody was a prolific serial killer. Keyes freely admitted as much. During conversations with investigators, The 34-year-old sometime construction worker revealed the names of 2 additional victims, along with tantalizing clues about other murders he had committed around the country over a period of years. But while awaiting trial, Keyes killed himself in his Anchorage jail cell, leaving a trail of unanswered questions and unidentified victims. Bundy thrived on attention, basking in the limelight of his trials, manipulating the system as effortlessly as he did his victims. Keyes, however, avoided notoriety, operating in shadows, seeking no fame, only fulfillment of his dark desires. 2 men, 2 monsters, united by the darkness within. As we peer into their twisted legacies, we are reminded of the fragility of trust, the depths of depravity, and the eternal question: how do we stop the monsters when they live among us?